Blood hit the marble floor before anyone could scream. Not hers. The wolf was silver, massive. Eyes glowing white in the chandelier light, and it was supposed to be her. 12 hours ago, she was nothing. The daughter nobody wanted. Standing invisible at a ball, while her sister laughed and the nobles whispered, and her own father looked through her like empty air. 12 hours ago, she would have believed them. Now 500 wolves were running for their lives, because something inside her had woken up. Something her mother died hiding. Something that hadn't existed in this realm for 30 years. The guards were shouting, weapons raised. The Alphaking was shifting to black fur, and she couldn't remember how to be human anymore. The wolf wanted to hunt, wanted revenge for every insult, every cruelty. Every year spent believing she was broken, one question remained. Could she stop it? Or would the girl everyone called worthless become the monster they always feared? Have you ever been told you're worthless by the people who should love you most? Seraphine Ashwood knew the answer before she turned 7. Morning light cut through the dining room windows at Ashwood Manor like accusations. Sharp, unforgiving. The kind of light that showed every crack in the porcelain, every tarnish on the silver, every flaw you'd rather keep hidden. She moved between the chairs with a tray. Tea for Lady Isolde, black coffee for Lord Garrett, cream and 3 sugars for Morgana, because her sister demanded sweetness in everything except her words. The china clinked as she set down the cups. No one looked up. Lord Garrett studied his newspaper, the realm's Morning Herald. Articles about trade disputes and border tensions and things that mattered to people who mattered. His jaw worked as he chewed toast, methodical, efficient. The same way he approached everything. Marriage, business, fatherhood. Lady Isolde examined her nails, painted pearl pink, perfect half moons. She'd spent an hour with the manicurist yesterday while Seraphine scrubbed the kitchen floors. Morgana scrolled through her phone. Designer case. Rose gold. Probably cost more than Seraphine's entire wardrobe, which wasn't saying much. Seraphine returned to the kitchen for the second course. Poached eggs, smoked salmon, asparagus drizzled with hollandaise. The kind of breakfast that required 3 pans and 40 minutes, and produced a pattern of dishes that she'd wash later, while everyone else went about their important lives. She placed the plates. Still no acknowledgement. It was like being a ghost, except ghosts got more attention. People ran from ghosts, screamed, acknowledged their existence even if only through terror. No one ran from Seraphine. They just looked through her. Morgana's voice cut through the silence without warning. The midsummer ball is in 3 days. Lady Isolde glanced up. Interest flickered across her face, the way it only did when discussing social events or potential matches for Morgana. Have you chosen your gown, the red one, with the rubies? Perfect. Lord Theron's nephew will be there, recently returned from the Northern Territories, unmarked, quite wealthy. Morgana smiled. The kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. How convenient. Lord Garrett turned a page. Didn't look up. But his voice carried across the table with the weight of law. Seraphine will attend as well. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Morgana's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Father, surely you're not serious. She's part of this family. She should be seen. Morgana's laugh came out sharp, like glass breaking. That's one word for it. Lady Isolde set down her teacup with deliberate care. Garrett, darling, perhaps it would be better if Seraphine remained here. Someone needs to oversee the staff while we're away. Translation: don't embarrass us in public. Seraphine stood by the sideboard, hands folded, eyes down, playing the part she'd perfected over 18 years, invisible, inoffensive, but relevant inside something burned. Lord Garrett's voice came out flat. Final, she attends. The Thornwood family will be there. The Silvermanes. Half the noble houses in the realm. Rumors have already spread about our... Better to show unity. Right. Because nothing said unity like a family, that treated one of their own like a servant. Morgana threw her napkin onto her plate. Fine, but she's not wearing anything that could possibly be mistaken for fashionable. I won't have people thinking we're related. You are related, Seraphine wanted to say. Same father, different mothers, though you'd never know it by the way you act. But she didn't say it. Never said it. 23 years of silence had taught her which battles were worth fighting. Spoiler, none of them. Lady Isolde turned her attention back to her nails. I'm sure we can find something appropriate in storage. Where they kept the moth-eaten curtains and broken furniture and things they didn't want but couldn't quite throw away. How fitting. Breakfast continued in silence. Seraphine cleared the plates, washed them in the kitchen, while Morgana's laughter drifted from upstairs, where she FaceTimed her friends about the upcoming ball and all the eligible men who'd be throwing themselves at her feet. The water ran scalding hot. Seraphine didn't adjust the temperature, let it burn. Small rebellions were all she had. 3 days passed, like a countdown to execution. Morgana spent them trying on gowns. 7 different options, each more extravagant than the last. Red silk, emerald satin, midnight blue with crystals that caught the light like stars. She paraded each one through the manor, demanded opinions from Lady Isolde, from the staff, from Seraphine, who stood there nodding because what else could she do? The red one, Morgana decided finally. Definitely the red. It clung to her like a second skin. Rubies at her throat and wrists. Hair swept up in an elaborate twist that took the stylist 2 hours to perfect. She looked like a queen. No, she looked like someone who expected to be treated like a queen. There was a difference. Seraphine watched from the doorway of Morgana's room, uninvited, but unable to look away, because part of her, the part she tried to bury deep, that part wondered what it would feel like to be beautiful, wanted, chosen. Morgana caught her reflection in the mirror. Their eyes met your staring. Don't apologize. It's pathetic. Seraphine turned to leave. Wait, she froze. Morgana rose from her vanity, crossed the room in a rustle of silk, stopped inches away, close enough that Seraphine could smell her perfume, jasmine and something darker, musk, maybe. Expensive, definitely. You're coming to the ball. Not a question. A statement of fact delivered with the enthusiasm one might reserve for announcing a dental appointment. Father insists, I know. Morgana's eyes narrowed, ice blue, like their father's. Seraphine had inherited her mother's eyes, warm brown, soft, weak, Morgana had called them once. Let me make something very clear, little sister. She drew out the words, little sister, like an insult. You will stand quietly in the corner. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not draw attention to yourself in any way. Do you understand? Yes, good. Because if you embarrass this family, she leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. If you make me look bad in front of the court, I will make your life so much worse than it already is. And trust me, I have a very creative imagination. She pulled back, smiled. Bright and empty, now get out. I need to finish my makeup. Seraphine fled down the hallway, past the portraits of Ashwood ancestors who'd never know her name, into her own room, if you could call it that. It had been a storage closet once, barely big enough for a twin bed and a dresser, no windows, one dim bulb that flickered when the wind blew too hard. But it was hers, the only space in this entire manor that belonged to her. She sat on the bed, springs creaking, pulled her knees to her chest, breathed in through the nose, out through the mouth, the way she'd taught herself during the worst nights when the walls closed in and the silence got too loud. Tomorrow was the ball. Tomorrow she'd stand in a room full of people who'd look through her, just like her family did. Tomorrow, the word tasted like ash. A knock came after dinner, soft, hesitant. Seraphine opened the door to find Nella standing in the hallway, the head housekeeper's daughter. 26, kind eyes. The only person in this house who'd ever treated Seraphine like a human being instead of an inconvenience. Lady Isolde sent me. Nella held up a garment bag. Your dress for tomorrow. Of course she did. Couldn't be bothered to deliver it herself. Might catch poverty or invisibility or whatever disease Seraphine apparently carried. Thank you. Nella stepped inside, closed the door, glanced around the tiny room with barely concealed sympathy. I'm sorry. For what? This, she gestured at the space. At the dress. At everything. You deserve better. Seraphine's throat tightened. Kindness hurt worse than cruelty sometimes, because cruelty you could armor against. Build walls around. Kindness slipped through the cracks and found all the soft places you'd tried to protect. It's fine. It's not. Nella hung the garment bag on the back of the door, but for what it's worth. I think you're stronger than any of them. She left before Seraphine could respond. Alone again. Always alone, Seraphine unzipped the bag. The dress inside was grey. Dove grey. Simple silk with no embellishments except a thin ribbon at the waist. It was actually kind of pretty, not like Morgana's crimson showstopper, not dripping with jewels or designed to turn heads, but pretty in a quiet way, understated, the kind of dress that whispered instead of shouted. She held it up to her body, checked her reflection in the small mirror above the dresser, and for just a moment, just one brief stupid moment, she let herself imagine what it might feel like to walk into that ballroom and have someone look at her, really look, not through her, not past her, at her. Then reality crashed back, because who was she kidding? Nobody looked at Seraphine Ashwood, nobody wanted to. The morning of the ball arrived with cruel sunshine. Seraphine woke to chaos. Stylists descended on the manor like a well-dressed invasion force. Hair, makeup, nails. Every surface in Morgana's room covered with products and tools, and the kind of attention to detail usually reserved for art restoration. Lady Isolde oversaw the operation like a general commanding troops. More curl in the front. That shade's too dark, the earrings. No, not those. The diamond drops. Seraphine stayed out of the way, cleaned the breakfast dishes, swept the entryway, polished the silver that would sit unused in the dining room for another month, until the next time they needed to impress someone. At 4 in the afternoon, Nella appeared again. Your turn. My turn for what? To get ready. Seraphine blinked. I can manage, I'm sure you can, but I'm helping anyway. Nella took her hand, led her upstairs to a guest bathroom far from Morgana's domain. Sit. She sat. Nella worked quickly, brushed Seraphine's dark hair until it shone, pulled half of it back in a simple twist, left the rest falling in stowawves past her shoulders. You have beautiful hair, Nella murmured. You should wear it down more often. No one had ever called any part of Seraphine beautiful before. The word landed strange, foreign, like a language she'd never learned to speak. Marco. Next. Light. Natural. Just enough to even out her skin tone and darken her lashes. There. Nella stepped back, smiled. Perfect. Seraphine looked in the mirror. The girl staring back wasn't transformed. Wasn't suddenly gorgeous or striking or any of the words people use to describe Morgana. But she looked present, like someone who existed instead of haunted. Thank you. Nella squeezed her shoulder. You're going to be fine. Lies people told to make hard things easier. But Seraphine appreciated it anyway. The dress fit perfectly. Grey silk whispered against her skin as she slipped it on. The ribbon at her waist tied in a simple bow. No jewelry, no accessories. Just the dress and her mother's locket tucked beneath the neckline where no one would see it. She'd found the locket years ago, hidden in the attic among boxes of things that had belonged to Lunara. Her real mother, the woman who'd died when Seraphine was 3 and left her daughter alone in a house that would never feel like home. The locket was silver, tarnished, a crescent moon carved into the front. Seraphine had tried to open it 1,000 times. It never budged, but she wore it anyway. A talisman. A connection to someone who'd actually wanted her, even if only for 3 short years. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Seraphine. Lady Isolde's voice carried through the door. Sharp, impatient. The car is waiting. Right. because heaven forbid they be late to the social event of the season. She took one last look in the mirror, breathed, opened the door. Morgana stood in the hallway, resplendent in red, rubies catching the light, hair perfect, makeup flawless, every inch the daughter Lord Garrett had always wanted. Her eyes raked over Seraphine, a smile curved her lips. Never friendly. Well, she said slowly, you look adequate. High praise from Morgana. Thank you, don't thank me. I'm not being nice. She turned toward the stairs, called over her shoulder, and remember what I said. Stay quiet. Stay what you're good at. The words hit like stones, because they were true. That was the worst part. They were absolutely true. Thornwood Manor sat on a hill overlooking the valley like a castle from a fairy tale, which made sense, because fairy tales were full of beautiful prisons where unwanted daughters waited for rescue that never came. The ballroom blazed with light. Chandeliers dripped crystal and honeyed glow onto marble floors polished to mirror brightness. Silk gowns swirled in shades of emerald and sapphire and gold. Jewels caught the light at every turn. Laughter rang out over string music that soared toward the vaulted ceiling. Money, power, privilege, all the things the Ashwood family had in abundance. All the things that meant nothing when measured against basic human decency. Seraphine entered 3 steps behind her family. No one noticed. Lord Garrett made a beeline for a cluster of older men in the corner. Business. Always is business. Lady Isolde drifted toward the other noble wives who gathered near the refreshment tables to gossip under the guise of socializing. Morgana swept into the room like she owned it. Heads turned, men straightened, women smiled with teeth that didn't reach their eyes. She loved it, thrived on it, the attention, the jealousy, the knowledge that she was the most eligible woman in the room, and everyone knew it. Seraphine found a pillar near the back, marble, cool, solid. She pressed her spine against it, breathed. This was fine, everything was fine. She'd stand here for 2 hours, maybe 3. Then they'd go home, and she could take off this dress and crawl back into her closet room and pretend tonight never happened. Easy, except the whispers started within 10 minutes. She caught fragments as people passed. Is that the Ashwood girl? Which one? The other one. Oh, her, followed by meaningful looks and barely suppressed smiles. 20 minutes in Morgana appeared with 3 other young women, all beautiful, all dressed in designer gowns that cost more than most people made in a year, all staring at Seraphine like she was a particularly interesting specimen in a zoo. Morgana's voice carried deliberately, "Nobody wants you, little sister." The words landed like a slap. The other women laughed. Not kind laughter, the cruel kind, the kind that came from people who'd never known what it felt like to be on the receiving end. Seraphine kept her face blank, didn't react, didn't give them the satisfaction. But Morgana wasn't done. She stepped closer, voice pitched for maximum intimacy, maximum damage. "You're 23 years old and completely unmarked." Gasps from the surrounding crowd, because in their world that was shameful, pitiable. Proof of unworthiness. No merchant wants you, no minor lord, not even the servants. More laughter. Seraphine's hands trembled. She clasped them together, kept breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Morgana leaned in, lips near Seraphine's ear, whispered, "You're nothing. You have nothing. And when father finally gets tired of pretending you matter, you'll disappear. And nobody will even notice you're gone." She pulled back, smiled, turned to rejoin her friends who stood waiting with expressions of sympathy, so fake it would have been funny if it wasn't so cruel. They walked away, left Seraphine standing by her pillar. Alone, always alone. The music swelled, couples took to the floor. Laughter and conversation created a wall of sound that pressed against her from all sides. And Seraphine just stood there existing. What nobody in that room knew was that she'd survived 18 years of this. 18 years of being told she didn't matter, didn't belong, wasn't enough. You don't survive that long without learning something about strength. Not the kind that showed, the quiet kind, the kind that kept you standing when everything in you screamed to run. She lifted her chin, kept her spine straight, and refused to cry. That's all she had, but she'd take them. The first hour passed in a blur of avoidance. Seraphine watched the room, memorized faces, conversations, the way Lord Thornwood held court near the fireplace, the way Lady Silvermane's laugh carried across the ballroom like breaking glass, the way no one looked at her, not once. She was invisible, a ghost in grey silk, until she felt it. Warmth bloomed in her chest without warning, sudden, unfamiliar. Like someone had lit a candle inside her ribcage. Her skin prickled. Every hair on her arms stood at attention. Her heart that had been beating its usual steady rhythm for 23 years. It stumbled caught, started racing. What was? She pressed a hand to her sternum, felt the heat spreading. Not painful, but intense. Like anticipation, like standing at the edge of a cliff in the dark, and feeling the wind rise like something was coming. She looked up across the ballroom, through the crush of bodies and the haze of candlelight. A man was watching her. No, not watching, seeing her. The difference hit like a physical blow. He stood in the shadows near the far wall, tall, broad-shouldered in a way that spoke of strength earned, not inherited, dressed in black so dark it seemed to absorb light, hair the color of a raven's wing swept back from a face that face. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw shadowed with stubble, a mouth set in a line that might have been stern except for the slight curve at one corner. His eyes, even from across the room, she could see them pale. Ice blue or silver or something in between, fixed on her with an intensity that made her want to run, made her unable to move at all. The warmth in her chest pulled tight, like a thread being drawn taut between them. Like something inside her was reaching for something inside, him straining, desperate. She'd heard stories about this, the bond, the mystical connection between fated mates that transcended logic or choice or station. Dismissed them as fairy tales, lies told to comfort people who hadn't found their match. Now standing frozen while a stranger's gaze burned through her like sunlight through glass. She wondered if she'd been wrong. He moved, the crowd parted, not obviously, not like they were making way. But people shifted, stepped aside, cried a path without seeming to realize they were doing it. He walked toward her, slow, deliberate. Every step measured. Heeds turned as he passed. Women curtsied, men bowed. He didn't acknowledge any of them. His attention never wavered from her, from the girl in the borrowed grey dress pressed against a pillar. Forgotten by everyone except him, 10 feet away, 5 close enough now that she could see details, the silver threading through his irises like veins in marble, the faint scar tracing his left temple in a pale crescent, the way his chest rose and fell with carefully controlled breaths, like he was fighting for composure as desperately as she was. Close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body, cutting through the ballroom's chill like a blade. He stopped, right in front of her. The music continued, violins and cellos weaving something bright and elegant, but Seraphine couldn't hear it over the thunder of her pulse in her ears. His voice came out low, rough, like gravel wrapped in velvet. "What is your name?" The question landed strange, because people didn't ask. They assumed, dismissed, looked past her to more important things. But he wanted to know. Her mouth had gone dry. Every instinct drilled into her, since childhood screamed to curtsy, lower her eyes, differ. This man was dangerous, powerful, some to be feared and obeyed without question. Instead, she lifted her chin. Does it matter? Surprise flickered across his face. Brief there and gone. It matters to me. 4 words, true. They hit her like stones because no one. In 23 years, no one had ever said anything like that to her before. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Then you're the first person tonight who cares." The words escaped before she could stop them, bitter. Honest, the kind of honesty that had earned her more than one punishment growing up. He didn't flinch, just tilted his head, studied her with an intensity that made her skin burn, made her knees threaten to buckle. You're the Ashwood daughter, not a question, a statement, the one they keep hidden. Something sharp twisted in her chest. I'm not hidden. I'm ignored. There's a difference. His jaw tightened. A muscle jumped beneath the skin. There is. He took a step closer. Seraphine's back pressed harder against the pillar, trapped between stone and heat, between her past and something unknown. You stood by this pillar for an hour. His voice dropped lower. Not a single person spoke to you. Not a single person asked you to dance. Your own sister publicly humiliated you while nobles watched and laughed. Her breath caught. He'd been watching this whole time. He'd been watching her, and yet, he continued, you didn't cry, didn't flee. You stood here like a queen surveying her kingdom, as if their cruelty couldn't touch you. Seraphine swallowed. Her throat felt raw. You were watching me. I couldn't stop. The admission hung between them heavy, with meaning she didn't fully understand. Around them the whispers started, low, urgent, attention turning in their direction. Eyes widening, mouths dropping open, because whoever this man was, he commanded respect that bordered on fear, and he was talking to her, to Seraphine, to nobody. His expression shifted, hardened into something protective. Come with me, not a command, despite the authority in his voice. A request. I don't even know your name, Aldrich. He offered his hand, palm up, and I'm asking, not commanding. She looked at his outstretched hand, at the strength in those long fingers, the calluses there, earned marks of someone who worked with weapons. Not a pampered noble, a warrior. At the silver ring on his smallest finger bearing a crest she almost recognized, at the vulnerability beneath his stern exterior, the way his hand trembled, almost imperceptibly, as if this mattered to him, as if she mattered. Small rebellions were all she'd ever had. This felt like a big one. She took his hand. The moment their skin touched, the thread in her chest snapped tight. Light flickered at the edge of her vision, golden, warm, there and gone in a heartbeat. Seraphine gasped. Aldrich's grip tightened, steadying her, anchoring her to earth when she felt like she might float away. I know, he murmured, pitched for her ears alone. I feel it too. He led her through the crowd, through doors she hadn't noticed, into a moonlit garden where roses climbed ancient walls, and the music faded to a distant murmur. Water sang over weathered stone in a fountain. The air smelled of night-blooming jasmine and something else, something wild. Green, alive moonlight turned everything to silver. They stopped, Seraphine's hand still clasped in his, the warmth of him spreading through her like wildfire, claiming dry grass. You feel it, Aldrich said. Not a question, a certainty. She nodded. Couldn't deny it. Not with his hand in hers, not with every nerve in her body, singing a frequency she'd never known existed. I've waited for this. His voice cracked. Barely. On the last word. For you. For years. You don't know me. I know. He released her hand, but only to cup her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones with devastating gentleness. I can see it. In the way you hold yourself, like you're always waiting for the next blow. Like kindness is a trick you've learned not to trust. Her eyes burned. She blinked rapidly, fought against hope, because hope was dangerous. Hope was a door left open in winter, letting in cold that killed. Why me? The question ripped from somewhere deep. Wounded, I'm nobody. I have nothing. I can't give you alliances or lands or heirs that anyone would accept. You're everything. He said it, like it was simple, like it was true, like there was no other possible answer. You're the other half of my soul. I would burn kingdoms to keep you safe. I would tear the stars from the sky if you asked me to. I don't even know who you are. Something shifted in his expression, a shadow passing over the moon. You don't recognize me, should I? Aldrich stepped back. His hand fell away from her face. Seraphine immediately felt the loss of his warmth like a wound. "The crest on my ring," he said quietly. "Look at it." She looked, really looked this time. A wolf's head crowned with thorns, silver on black, the symbol that flew from banners across the northern realm, the symbol of oh ho no. The realization hit like a physical blow. She stumbled back, hand flying to her mouth, heart hammering so hard she could taste copper. Her voice came out strangled. "Aldrich Blackthorn. Alphaking of the Northern Realm," he nodded, waiting. "I insulted you," the words tumbled out. "I was rude. I didn't show proper respect." "You were honest." His eyes softened, the silver warming to something almost tender. "Do you know how rare that is? Everyone in that ballroom wants something from me. Power, money, protection, territory. They see a crown before they see a man." He took a step toward her, slow, giving her room to flee. "She didn't. You didn't even know who I was, and you still spoke to me like I was a person. Not a title. I thought you were just some arrogant lord." The corner of his mouth twitched. "I am arrogant." A pause. "I'm also your mate." The word hung between them, mate, fated bound by something older than kingdoms and stronger than fear. "This is insane," Seraphine whispered. "I'm nobody. My own family treats me like a servant. I don't have a dowry. I don't have connections. I have nothing to offer a king. You have yourself." Aldrich closed the distance between them again. Slower this time. "That's more than enough. The court will never accept me. The court will accept whoever I tell them to accept. My family has treated you abominably." His voice hardened, took on an edge that reminded her this was not just a man, but a king who commanded armies. "I saw your sister's performance. I've been watching your household all evening." He took her hands in his, both of them this time, cradled between his palms like something fragile and valuable, worth protecting. "I came to this ball because my advisors demanded I make an appearance. I found something far more precious than political alliances." His thumbs stroked across her knuckles. "I won't force you. The bond doesn't work like that. You have a choice. You'll always have a choice with me." A pause. His eyes searched hers. "But I'm asking you to consider it. Consider a life where you're not invisible. Consider me." Seraphine stared at their joined hands. His were so much larger than hers, roughened by swordwork, scarred by battles she couldn't imagine, yet they held her with such care, like she was made of glass and gold. "Why would you want me?" The question felt like tearing out her own heart and offering it up for judgment. "I'm damaged. I don't know how to be loved. I've spent my whole life surviving, and I don't know if I can be anything more than that. Then we'll learn together." Aldrich lifted her hands to his lips, pressed a kiss to her knuckles that burned hotter than any fire. "I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for a chance." Before she could respond, voices drifted from the ballroom, raised, angry. Seraphine's stomach dropped. "That's my father." Aldrich's expression shifted. The tenderness vanished, replaced by something cold, predatory. His eyes hardened to chips of ice. "Then let's go remind him who his daughter belongs to now." They returned to the ballroom together, hand in hand. The whispers that had been soft before erupted into a roar. Expulsion, shock, scandal. Seraphine saw her father at the center of the room, purple with rage. Lady Isolde beside him, clutching a handkerchief like propriety could shield them. And Morgana standing slightly behind them. Crimson gown suddenly garish against the elegant backdrop, smile frozen on her face. A rictus of disbelief. Lord Garrett's voice boomed across the dance floor. "Seraphine, come here immediately." The old instinct surfaced. "Obey, always obey, don't make it worse." But Aldrich's hand tightened on hers. His thumb stroked across her palm, silent reassurance. She didn't move toward her father, stayed beside the king. Lord Garrett's face darkened further. "You've embarrassed this family enough for one evening." Aldrich's voice cut through the noise like a blade through silk. "Lord Ashwood." Conversation died. The orchestra stumbled to silence. Every eye in the ballroom turned toward them, a word. If you please, the color drained from her father's face. Recognition, fear, Your Majesty. I didn't realize. I wasn't informed? No, you weren't. Aldrich moved forward, drawing Seraphine with him because he hadn't released her hand. Wouldn't release it. You were too busy parading your titled daughter before me, like a prize mare, to notice that your king was watching something far more interesting. Morgana made a small, strangled sound. Aldrich continued, voice carrying to every corner of the room. No one moved, no one breathed. I've spent the last 2 hours in this ballroom. I've seen your hospitality on full display. I watched your heir mock her own sister in public. I watched your guests treat Lady Seraphine as if she were invisible. I watched you and your wife ignore her entirely. He paused, let the silence stretch. As though she were a stain you hope no them would. Lord Garrett sputtered. We didn't, Your Majesty. Seraphine is mine. The word fell like a hammer on stone. Final bomb assault. I don't know what she did to earn your contempt, and frankly, I don't care. But I need you to understand something. He released Seraphine's hand, only to wrap an arm around her waist, pulling her against his side. A gesture that declared ownership and protection in equal measure. This woman is my fated mate, my bond. My future queen. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects the crown, and I do not take insults to my crown lightly. The silence was absolute. A pin dropping would have sounded like thunder. Seraphine watched her family's faces cycle through shock, disbelief, and finally, sickening obsequiousness. Lady Isolde recovered first, swept forward with a brilliant smile that didn't reach her eyes. Your Majesty, what wonderful news! We always knew Seraphine was destined for great things, didn't we, darling? She glanced at Lord Garrett, who nodded vigorously. Yes, of course, our beloved daughter. Always such a treasure. Enough. Aldrich's voice was ice and iron. Lady Seraphine and I will be departing. You'll receive formal communication from my court regarding her transition to the palace. He turned, guiding Seraphine toward the doors. But Morgana stepped into their path, her mask of composure cracking, revealing something desperate, ugly beneath. This isn't possible, her voice shook. She's nothing, she's unmarked. Unremarkable. Aldrich stopped, his expression carved from granite. She is everything. You don't understand. Morgana's hands trembled. Do you know what she is? What our family has hidden for years? A bitter laugh escaped her. Ask her about her mother. Her real mother. Ask her why she doesn't shift. Why she's never belonged, Morgana. Lady Isolde's voice cracked like a whip. That's enough. But the damage was done. Each word landed on Seraphine like a physical blow. Her real mother. The woman her father never spoke of, the reason she was different, other wrong. She pulled away from Aldrich, wrapped her arms around herself. Aldrich's voice came gentle now. Stripped of its royal authority, Seraphine, she forced herself to meet his eyes. I'm not fully wolf. My birth mother was human. She died when I was 3. My father remarried almost immediately. She gestured at Lady Isolde, who had the grace to look uncomfortable. I'm a halfling. That's why I've never shifted. That's why the bond never found me before. That's why She stopped. Couldn't say it, but Aldrich started to laugh. The sound was unexpected warm, rich filling the silent ballroom. That's it. He shook his head. That's your family's great secret. He crossed to her in 2 strides, cupped her face in his hands with a tenderness that broke something inside her. Seraphine, I don't care if you're half human, half fae, half mountain troll. The bond doesn't care about bloodlines. It doesn't care about what you can or cannot shift into. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. It cares about souls. I felt you the moment you walked into this room. My wolf has been howling for you since you took your first breath inside these walls. He leaned closer, until his forehead rested against hers. Human blood or not. And I'm yours, if you'll have me. Seraphine searched his face, for doubt, for hesitation, for any sign that this was some elaborate cruelty. a twist of fate designed to break her more completely than anything before. She found only truth, only love, only a future she had never dared to imagine. Yes, the word came out barely a whisper. "I'll have you." Aldrich kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't chaste, it was acclaiming, fierce and hot and full of promise. Seraphine gasped against his mouth. He swallowed the sound, one hand sliding into her hair, the other pressing against the small of her back, drawing her closer until there was no space between them at all. The thread between them blazed. She could feel it solidifying, weaving their souls together in a pattern that could never be undone. His heartbeat thundered against her chest, matching hers, rhythm for rhythm. When they finally broke apart, Seraphine was trembling, so was he. Aldrich murmured against her lips, "Now, before I do something extremely inappropriate for a ballroom." She laughed, the sound wet with tears she hadn't noticed falling. He kissed those away too, kept an arm around her as they walked past her stunned family, past the gaping guests, past Morgana's tear-streaked face. At the doorway, Seraphine paused, turned back, looked at the house that had been her prison for so long, at the people who'd made her feel worthless, unwanted. "Nothing. I hope you find your happiness." Her voice came out quiet, steady. "I've found mine." They left together, into a night that felt less like an ending, and more like a beginning. What if the thing you've been ashamed of your whole life was actually your greatest power? 3 weeks in the palace, and Seraphine still couldn't sleep. Not because the bed was uncomfortable. 4-poster monstrosity with silk sheets and more pillows than any human needed, so soft she sank into it like quicksand. No. She couldn't sleep because every time she closed her eyes, she waited for someone to tell her this was a mistake, that she didn't belong here, that Aldrich had changed his mind. Morning light filtered through curtains that cost more than her entire childhood. Gold thread, velvet, heavy enough to block out the sun if she wanted. She never wanted. Preferred to watch dawn break over the palace gardens. Roses and fountains and paths that wound through greenery, so perfect it looked painted. A knock came at the door connecting her chambers to Aldrich's 3 taps. Pause. 2 more. Their code. So she'd know it was him and not a servant or guard or one of the council members who'd been circling since her arrival like sharks scenting in blood. "Come in." The door opened. Aldrich stood in the doorway, hair still damp from his morning training, shirt clinging to his shoulders in ways that made her forget how to breathe. 3 weeks, and she still wasn't used to the sight of him, to the fact that he was hers, that she was his. That this wasn't a dream she'd wake from. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." He crossed the room, sat on the edge of her bed, close enough to touch but not touching, always giving her space, always letting her choose bad dreams, no dreams, just. She gestured vaguely. "Waiting. For what? For you to realize you made a mistake." His hand found hers, fingers lacing together. Warm, real, solid, not a mistake. Never a mistake, easy for him to say. He was the Alphaking, powerful, respected, born to rule. She was just, well, she was still figuring out what she was. "The council meeting is at 10. His thumb traced circles on her palm. "Councillor Theron has requested another audience." Of course he had. Theron, 65 years old. Grey beard. Eyes like chips of flint. Voice that could cut glass. He'd opposed Seraphine from the moment Aldrich announced their engagement. Not quietly either. A halfling queen weakens the royal bloodline. He'd said it to her face during their first formal introduction, while Aldrich stood right there, while the entire council watched. Seraphine had kept her spine straight, chin up, refused to flinch, but inside, she'd felt like she was 12 years old again, standing in front of Lord Garrett while he explained why she couldn't attend family dinners with important guests, because she was an embarrassment. Aldrich's jaw had tightened. "Councillor, you will address my queen with respect, or you will find yourself addressing the northern border from a guard tower." Theron had bowed, stiff. "Shallow, of course. Your Majesty." But his eyes promised war. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, he'd been collecting support, whispering in corners, holding private meetings with other council members who thought a tradition mattered more than bonds. Seraphine pushed the thoughts away, focused on Aldrich's hand in hers. What does he want this time? To discuss the engagement ceremony. Her stomach dropped. Right, the ceremony, where she'd have to shift in front of the entire court. Prove the bond was legitimate. Prove she was worthy. Small problem. She'd never shifted in her life. Didn't even know if she could. Her mother had been human, which meant Seraphine carried only half the wolf blood that ran through everyone else in this realm. Half maybe not enough. Aldrich, I know. What if I can't? Then we'll figure it out. Theron will use it against me. Let him try. His voice carried that edge. The one that reminded her he wasn't just the man who kissed her forehead every morning, but the king who'd unified warring territories through sheer force of will, who'd faced down rebellions and emerged stronger, who commanded armies with a word. I won't let anyone take you from me. The certainty in his voice almost made her believe it. Almost. The council chamber felt like a courtroom. Long table, high ceilings, windows that let in too much light. Sat at the far end, flanked by 2 other councillors. Younger men, ambitious, the kind who saw opportunity in chaos. Lady Rowena occupied a seat near the middle, 28. Beautiful in the way sharp things were beautiful. All edges and angles and a smile that never reached her eyes. She'd been Aldrich's intended before Seraphine arrived, chosen by the council, approved by tradition, perfect bloodline, impeccable connections, everything. Seraphine wasn't Rowena, hadn't said a word against her publicly. Didn't need to. Her presence said enough. Seraphine took her seat beside Aldrich, back straight, hands folded, playing the part of queen even though the crown hadn't touched her head yet. Fake it until you make it, or until they threw you out, whichever came first. Theron stood. Your Lady Seraphine. Thank you for joining us, as if they'd had a choice. The engagement ceremony is scheduled for 7 days from now. As tradition dictates, the queen must shift before the court. To prove the legitimacy of the bond, his eyes found Seraphine's held. Can you shift? Lady Seraphine? The question landed like a stone in still water. Ripples spreading, everyone waiting, watching. Seraphine's throat tightened. Aldrich's hand found hers under the table, squeezed. She could lie. Say yes. Hope for the best, or she could tell the truth. I don't know. I've never tried. Whispers erupted around the table. Shock, disbelief. Theron's expression didn't change. Because he'd known, of course he'd known. He'd been counting on this, I see. And may I ask why you've never attempted something so fundamental to our nature? Our nature, not yours. Yours? The exclusion clear as glass. My mother was human. I didn't know if I could, your mother. Theron repeated slowly. The human woman who married Lord Ashwood, who died under mysterious circumstances. Ice flooded Seraphine's veins. What are you implying? Nothing. Merely stating facts. He turned to address the full council. The question before us is simple. Can a halfling with no shifting history legitimately bond with our king? Or is this, he paused, an anomaly? Perhaps even a deception. Aldrich's chair scraped back. He rose. The temperature in the room dropped. Councillor Theron. Choose your next words very carefully. I mean no disrespect. Your Majesty. But the bond has always required both parties to be of full wolf blood. It's unprecedented. Many things about my reign are unprecedented. The bond chose her. That's all that matters. With respect, the bond can be mistaken, temporary infatuation, lust. These things can mimic the pull of fate. Seraphine's hands clenched in her lap. Don't react. Don't give him ammunition. Rowena spoke for the first time, her voice honey over steel. Perhaps a demonstration would settle this. If Lady Seraphine could shift now, before us, all concerns would be addressed. Clever, so clever because Seraphine couldn't. And everyone in this room knew it. The ceremony is in 7 days. Aldrich's voice came out flat. That's when she'll shift. Not before, and if she cannot, Theron pressed, what then? Do we crown a queen who cannot access the most basic aspect of our nature? Who might produce heirs with the same deficiency? The word hit like a slap. Deficiency. That's what she was to them. Broken less than unworthy. Seraphine stood, surprised herself. All eyes turned to her. Councillor Theron is right. Aldrich's head snapped toward her. Seraphine. She ignored him. Kept her gaze on Theron. I can't shift. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And you're right to question whether I belong here. Triumph flickered across Theron's face. Too soon. But here's what I know. The bond is real. I feel it every moment of every day. It's not lust, not infatuation. It's connection. The kind that doesn't care about bloodlines or tradition, or what you think should be possible. She took a breath. I have 7 days. I'll spend them figuring out if I can shift. If I can't, her voice steadied, then we'll deal with that when it comes. But I won't stand here and let you talk about me like I'm not in the room. Silence, Dop and Silt. Theron recovered first. Very well. 7 days. We'll reconvene at the ceremony. Sat. Dismissed them without actually dismissing them. The meeting ended. Council members filed out. Rowena paused by Seraphine's chair, leaned down. Whispered. Brave speech. But we both know you can't shift. And when you fail, her smile could have cut diamonds. I'll be waiting. She swept out, left Seraphine sitting there, alone with Aldrich and the weight of 7 days pressing down like stones. That afternoon, Aldrich left for the northern border. Rebellion brewing, territory disputes, king business that couldn't wait. He stood in her chambers, already dressed for travel. Leather and weapons and that expression he wore when he had to be king instead of just hers. I'll be back in 5 days, 2 days before the ceremony. Cutting it close, I can handle things here. I know you can. He cupped her face, kissed her forehead, her nose, her mouth. But I don't like leaving you alone with them. I've survived worse than nobles. Have you, though? Fair point. Her family had been cruel, but they'd been predictable. This was a different kind of war. One fought with smiles and politics and knives you couldn't see coming. Theron will test you. Aldrich's thumbs brushed her cheekbones. Don't let him break you. What if I'm already broken? Then we'll put the pieces back together. You and me. He kissed her again, longer this time, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. When he pulled back, his eyes held something fierce. Protective, if anything happens. Anything. You send word immediately. I'll come back, even if it means abandoning your responsibilities. You are my responsibility, the most important one. Words that should have been romantic. We're romantic, but also terrifying, because what if she couldn't live up to that? What if she failed? He left at dusk, took half the palace guard with him, left Seraphine standing in the courtyard, watching until his horse disappeared beyond the gates. Then she was alone, in a palace full of people who wanted her gone, with 7 days to figure out how to shift or lose everything. No pressure. She started in the library, because if there was one thing Seraphine knew how to do, it was research. Hoe in corners, be invisible, learn things nobody thought to teach her. The palace library sprawled across 3 floors. Shelves reaching towards ceilings, painted with scenes of ancient battles, wolves and warriors and bonds forged in blood and moonlight. Seraphine found the restricted section after an hour of searching, locked a door, but the head librarian was 60. Kind eyes. Reminded her of Nella. I need access to the historical records. The librarian studied her. Those are restricted to council members and the royal family. I'm engaged to the king, you are. A pause. But not yet queen. Seraphine's hands clenched. Please. It's important. Something in her voice must have landed, because the librarian sighed, pulled a key from her desk. 2 hours. That's all I can give you without raising questions. Thank you. Inside the restricted section, dust motes danced in afternoon light filtering through high windows. Books lined the walls, old, leather-bound. Spines cracked from age and use. Seraphine ran her fingers along titles. History of the Northern Realms, the bond. Myths and truths, bloodlines of power. She pulled that one, carried it to a reading table, opened the index, scanned for anything about halflings. Mixed blood. Human-wolf unions, found nothing, because of course not. Who would document the existence of something they considered shameful? She tried another book, The Lost Bloodlines, study of extinct wolf lineages, more promising. She flipped through pages, skimmed paragraphs about families that had died out, bloodlines that had ended, and then a chapter that made her breath catch, the Moonborn. Ancient wolf bloodline, silver pelts, strength 10 times that of normal wolves, extinct for 30 years, hunted to extinction because other wolves feared their power. The last known Moonborn was Princess Lunara, who disappeared, believed dead. Seraphine's heart hammered. Lunara, her mother's name. She read faster. The Moonborn possessed unique characteristics. They shifted only upon finding their true mate. The bond triggered the transformation. But the first shift was dangerous. Uncontrolled. The wolf took over completely, grind training guidance control. Without it, the shifter risked killing everyone around them. The book showed an illustration, a massive silver wolf, eyes glowing white, power radiating in waves that bent the very air beautiful. Terrifying, Seraphine's hands shook as she turned the page. Found something tucked between the leaves, a letter yellow with age, sealed with wax. The seal showed a crescent moon. Her fingers trembled as she broke it open, unfolded the paper. The handwriting was elegant, feminine. My dearest Seraphine, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't stay to guide you, to teach you, to watch you grow into the woman I know you'll become. You are Moonborn, the last of our line. Your father doesn't know, couldn't know. If he discovered the truth, he'd use it, use you. We only shift when we find our true mate. The bond triggers the transformation, but you must be careful. The first shift is dangerous. You could kill everyone around you if you don't learn control first. Kind the Moonborn archives. They're hidden in the palace, beneath the East Tower, behind the old armory. Learn who you are, what you're capable of. And remember, being different isn't being broken, it's being powerful. All my love, your mother. The letter ended there, torn off mid-sentence, like someone had ripped it away the rest. Seraphine read it 3 times, then a 4th. Her mother, Princess Lunara, Moonborn, which meant Seraphine wasn't just a halfling. She was something else entirely, something ancient, powerful. Feared. No wonder Lord Garrett had hidden the truth, married her mother for access to Moonborn secrets, Moonborn treasure. Used her, and when Lunara died, probably not mysterious circumstances at all, probably murder. Rage burned through Seraphine's chest, hot, clean, clarifying. All these years she'd thought herself broken, less than when really she was more. So much more than anyone knew. She folded the letter carefully, tucked it into her bodice, checked the time. 90 minutes left of her library access. She needed to find those archives now. The East Tower was abandoned. Crumbling stone. Narrow stairs, dust thick enough to show every footprint. No one came here. Perfect place to hide something you didn't want found. Seraphine descended. Down. Until she reached a level that felt older than the rest of the palace. Stone rougher. Air colder, the old armory, racks of ancient weapons, lined the walls, swords, shields. Armor from wars fought centuries ago. She searched for anything that looked like a hidden entrance. Pressed stones, checked for loose panels. Found a crescent moon carved into the floor, barely visible under decades of grime. She knelt, traced the shape with her fingers. It glowed, faint silver, responding to her touch, her blood. The floor beneath the symbol shifted, grinding stone on stone. A section slid aside, revealing stairs, leading down into darkness. Seraphine hesitated, because this felt like a threshold. Cross it and there was no going back. Learn the truth about what she was, what she could become, what she'd been running from her entire life. She descended. The stairs ended in a chamber, circular, Walls carved in symbols that glowed silver as she entered, shelves lined with books, scrolls, artifacts, everything the Moonborn had left behind before they were hunted to extinction. In the center of the room, a pedestal, holding a book bound in silver leather, the Moonborn Chronicles. Seraphine approached, opened it. The first page showed a family tree, names and silver generations. And there, at the bottom, Princess Lunara, married to Lord Garrett Ashwood, one daughter, Seraphine, last of the Moonborn line. Her hand covered the name, written proof of what she was. She turned pages, read about shifting techniques, meditation practices, how to channel the bond, how to control the wolf instead of letting it control you. It would take weeks to learn all this. She had 5 days, maybe less. A sound echoed from above, footsteps. Someone had followed her. Seraphine's pulse spiked. She couldn't let anyone find this place. Couldn't let them know about the Moonborn connection. Not yet. Not until she understood what it meant. She grabbed the Chronicles, shoved them into her bag, raced back up the stairs. The crescent moon symbol glowed as she passed. The floor slid back into place behind her, sealing the chamber. She emerged into the armory, ducked behind a rack of shields, watched Lady Rowena appeared at the top of the stairs, beautiful even in the dim light, emerald dress, hair perfect, expression calculating. "I know you're down here." Seraphine held her breath. "I saw you enter the Heast Tower. Followed you." Rowena descended slowly. "What are you looking for?" Silence. Rowena's heels clicked against stone. "Getting closer. You can't shift. We both know it. And when you fail at the ceremony, when Aldrich realizes you've been lying to him," she smiled, "I'll be there to pick up the pieces." She turned, walked back up the stairs, left. Seraphine stayed hidden for another 5 minutes, making sure. Then she ran, through corridors, upstairs, back to her chambers, locked the door, cupped against it. Heart racing, the Chronicles heavy in her bag. She had what she needed. Now she just had to learn it, in 4 days, before Rowena or Theron or anyone else figured out what she was, before the ceremony that would make or break everything. No pressure, right? No pressure at all. She spent the next 2 days locked in her chambers, reading, studying, practicing meditation techniques the Chronicles described, reaching for the bond that connected her to Aldrich, feeling for the wolf inside her that she'd never been able to access. It was like trying to grab smoke. They're not substantial enough to sense, but too ephemeral to hold. By the 3rd day, frustration gnawed at her. She threw the book across the room, watched it hit the wall, slide to the floor. This was useless. She couldn't learn in days what should take months, years. And even if she could access her wolf, the Chronicles were clear. First shift without proper guidance was deadly. She'd lose control, hurt people, maybe kill them. The ceremony was in 4 days. Aldrich wouldn't be back for 2 more. She was alone, failing, exactly like everyone expected. A knock came at the door, not Aldrich's pattern. "Who is it?" "A friend." The voice was female, unfamiliar. Seraphine cracked the door. A woman stood in the hallway, older, maybe late 40s, grey streaking through dark hair. Eyes that held too much knowledge. "My name is Mirelle. I was your mother's healer." Seraphine's breath caught. "You knew her." "Watched you take your first breath." Mirelle's expression softened. "I've been waiting for you to find the archives." "Took you long enough. How did you?" "I've been watching since you arrived, waiting to see if you'd discover the truth on your own." She glanced down the hallway. "Can I come in? We have much to discuss and very little time." Seraphine stepped aside. Mirelle entered, saw the Chronicles on the floor, smiled. "Frustrating, isn't it? All that knowledge and no idea how to access it. I have 4 days, I know. I can't shift. You can. You just don't know how yet." Mirelle picked up the book, smoothed the pages. "Your mother asked me to help you. If you ever needed it. I promised I would. Why didn't you come sooner? Because you needed to find this on your own. Needed to want it." She met Seraphine's eyes, Do you want it, did she? 3 weeks ago she would have said no, would have been happy to stay invisible. But now she'd tasted what it felt like to be seen, wanted, chosen. She wasn't going back. Yes. I want it. Good. Mirelle set down the book. Then let's begin. The technique was simple in theory, impossible in practice. Close your eyes, breathe. Find the bond that connects you to Aldrich. Seraphine tried, felt the warmth in her chest, the golden thread that had appeared the moment she met him. Good. Now follow it. Let it guide you to your wolf. She reached along the thread into herself, meeching, found nothing. Emptiness where her wolf should be. I can't find it, because you're too far from your mate. The bond needs proximity, connection. Mirelle's voice stayed calm. Try again. This time imagine him beside you. Feel his presence. Seraphine breathed, pictured Aldrich, his silver eyes, strong hands, the way he looked at her like she mattered. The warmth in her chest pulsed, grew stronger, and there deep inside, something stirred, not human, not entirely her. Her eyes snapped open. I felt it. Excellent. That's your wolf. Sleeping. Waiting for the right trigger. Mirelle leaned forward. When Aldrich returns, you'll be able to access it more easily. The physical proximity will strengthen the bond, but the ceremony is in 4 days. He won't be back until 2 days before. Then we practice until he arrives. Build the mental pathways. So when the time comes, your wolf will answer. They worked through the afternoon, into evening. Seraphine reaching for that spark of otherness, learning to hold it, to coax it closer instead of grabbing. By midnight, she could maintain the connection for 30 seconds. Not long, but longer than before. Progress. Mirelle stood. That's enough for today. Rest. We'll continue tomorrow. Wait. Seraphine caught her arm. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. I knew your mother. She saved my life once. Mirelle's expression turned distant, and I failed her when she needed me most. I won't fail her daughter. What happened to her? My mother? That's not my story to tell. But she hesitated. Your father knows more than he's admitted. About what she was, what you are. When this is over, when you've shifted and claimed your place, Mirelle squeezed Seraphine's hand. Ask him. Demand the truth. She left. Seraphine stood alone in her chambers, questions multiplying. Lord Garrett knew, had always known, about the moonborn bloodline, the power, the danger, and he'd hidden it, let her think she was broken, worthless, while sitting on the truth that could have changed everything. Rage burned, cold and clarifying. She'd deal with him, eventually. First, she had to survive the ceremony, had to shift, had to prove she belonged then. Then she'd make him answer for every lie, every cruel word, every moment he'd let her believe she was nothing. 2 days before the ceremony, Aldrich returned. Seraphine felt him before she saw him, the bond flaring to life, warmth flooding her system. She ran, through corridors, downstairs, into the courtyard where he dismounted, covered in road dust, exhausted, but alive. Woollers. He caught her, lifted her off her feet, kissed her like he'd been starving, and maybe he had been, because she felt it too, the desperate need, the certainty that being apart was wrong, unnatural. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. I missed you. 2 days. Felt like years. She laughed, pulled back to look at him. Really? Look, new scar on his jaw, shadows under his eyes. What happened? Rebellion was bigger than we thought. Took 3 battles to end it. His hands framed her face. But it's done. I'm here, and nothing is taking me away from you again. Aldrich, I mean it. Whatever happens at the ceremony, we face it together. She wanted to tell him about the moonborn bloodline, about Mirelle, about practicing for 2 days straight, but words felt inadequate. Instead, she kissed him again, let the bond speak for her. When they separated this time, his eyes had darkened, heated. My chambers, now, not a question, a need. She nodded, let him lead her inside, upstairs, into his rooms where they fell together, desperate, hungry, like they could make up for 2 days apart in one night, after when they lay tangled in sheets. heart still racing, skin slick with sweat. Seraphine felt it, the spark inside her, her wolf, closer than it had ever been, responding to Aldrich's proximity, to the bond between them. She closed her eyes, reached, and found it waiting, silver, powerful, hers, almost within grasp. Tomorrow. Tomorrow at the ceremony, she'd shift or die trying, because going back to being invisible, to being nothing, that wasn't an option anymore. Sometimes love isn't about saving someone from danger. It's about trusting them to find their own way back. The great hall had never looked more like a trap. 500 nobles packed into a space designed for 300, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, jewels catching light from chandeliers that hung like guillotines. Beautiful, sharp, waiting, Seraphine stood in the antechamber, white gown flowing around her like water, silver embroidery at the hem, crescent moon stitched with thread that caught light the same way her mother's locket did, which hung visible now, no longer hidden, a statement, a claim. Her hands shook. She pressed them flat against her thighs, breathed in through the nose, out through the mouth. The meditation Mirelle had drilled into her for 2 days straight until Seraphine could reach her wolf in under 30 seconds. Reach it, not control it. That was the part that terrified her, because the chronicles were clear about what happened during first shift. The wolf took over completely. Primal, violent, driven by instinct that didn't understand civilization or consequences, or the fact that killing 500 nobles would be problematic. A hand touched her shoulder, Aldrich dressed in formal black, crown sitting heavy on his dark hair, every inch the king, except for his eyes, which looked at her like she was the only person in the world. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. We can postpone. Say you're ill. Buy more time. Time won't change anything. She turned. I can shift or I can't. She turned to face him fully, and if I can't, if the bond is wrong somehow, the word tasted like ash, then better to know now. It's not wrong. It's never been wrong. Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one about to transform into a potentially murderous wolf in front of half the realm's nobility, or not transform, which might be worse. Proof that she was exactly what they thought. Broken, unworthy, a mistake. Seraphine, Aldrich tilted her chin up, forced her to meet his eyes. Whatever happens in there, you're mine, and I'm yours. Nothing changes that. Everything could change, then we'll face it together. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. A guard appeared, Your Majesty. Lady Seraphine. They're ready, right. Because you could be ready to watch someone either prove themselves or destroy everything. Totally the same thing. Aldrich offered his arm. Seraphine took it. Let him lead her through corridors that felt too long and too short simultaneously, toward doors that stood open like a mouth, waiting to swallow her whole. The crowd fell silent as they entered, not gradual, immediate, like someone had cut the sound. All eyes turned, 500 pairs watching, judging, waiting for her to fail. The aisle stretched before them, marble polished to mirror brightness, reflecting chandeliers above, making it feel like she walked on light, or into a trap designed to look beautiful. Councillor Theron stood at the far end, grey beard, stern face, expression that promised nothing good. Beside him, Lady Rowena, emerald dress, perfect hair. Smile that didn't reach her eyes. Why was she here? This was a council ceremony, not a social event, unless Theron had invited her specifically to witness Seraphine's failure, to be ready to step in when the halfling queen proved inadequate. Rage flickered. Cold, clean, good. She could use that. They reached the dais. Aldrich squeezed her hand once, released it, took his place on the throne, left Seraphine standing alone, center stage, exposed, vulnerable, exactly where they wanted her. Theron's voice carried across the hall. We gather to witness the engagement ceremony. As tradition dictates, the queen must shift before the court to prove the legitimacy of the bond between her and our king. Pause, let the words settle, sink in, Lady Seraphine Ashwood. Do you consent to this demonstration? As if she had a choice. I do. Then proceed. No preamble, no preparation. Just do it, shift, prove yourself, or get out. Seraphine closed her eyes, reached for the bond, found it immediately warm, golden. Pulling her toward Aldrich like a tide, she followed it down into herself, past conscious thought, past fear, into the place where her wolf waited. Silver, massive, barely contained. She'd touched this presence before, in practice with Mirelle, in moments alone with Aldrich when the bond flared bright, but never like this, never with intent to fully shift, to let the wolf out, to surrender control. The wolf sensed her, turned its attention, eyes glowing white, power radiating in waves that made her human form feel fragile, temporary, a shell waiting to crack. Come on, she thought. Please, I need you. The wolf tilted its head, considering, and then pain blinding, absolute. Her bones broke, reformed, broke again, skin rippled. Stretched fur erupted along her arms, silver, bright enough to hurt, she screamed or tried to. The sound came out wrong, half human, half something else. The great hall swam, faces blurring, chandeliers spinning, her vision shifted, collars deepening, sense exploding. 500 heartbeats thundering, fear, excitement, anticipation, all of it overwhelming, too much, too much. She fell forward, caught herself on hands that were no longer hands, paws, massive, tipped with claws that scraped marble. The transformation completed. Seraphine. No, not Seraphine anymore, the wolf. Silver pelt glowing in the chandelier light, twice the size of normal wolves, power crackling along its spine like lightning seeking ground. The great hall erupted. Gasps, shouts, someone screamed. But the wolf didn't care about their fear, cared only about so many threats, predators surrounding her pack. No, not pack. Enemies. The wolf snarled, low, menacing. A sound that vibrated through the marble floor, made chandeliers shake, made nobles stumble backward, pressing against walls, scrambling for exits that suddenly seemed very far away. Seraphine, somewhere deep inside, buried under instinct and rage and power. She screamed at the wolf, "Stop, please, you're scaring them." But the wolf didn't listen. Couldn't listen because there was no Seraphine, only the wolf. And the wolf saw threats everywhere. It lunged toward the nearest cluster of nobles. Women in silk gowns shrieked. Men threw themselves aside. The wolf's jaws snapped, missed by inches. Would have torn someone's throat out if they'd been slower. Pandemonium, pure chaos, people running, screaming, trying to reach doors that were too far, too narrow. Guards rushed forward, weapons drawn, forming a barrier between the wolf and the fleeing crowd. The wolf turned on them, hackles raised, teeth bared. These weren't nobles, these were fighters, warriors. The wolf recognized the threat, prepared to meet it. One guard raised a crossbow, aimed. Aldrich's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Stand down, all of you." Now the guards hesitated, looked to their king who'd risen from his throne. Crown discarded, already shifting. His wolf emerged, fast controlled, black pelt, silver eyes, powerful but not like the silver wolf that dominated the center of the hall, not Moonborn. Aldrich's wolf moved between the guards and Seraphine, positioned himself as a barrier, protection. The silver wolf snarled even at him. Because the wolf didn't recognize mates, didn't understand bonds, only saw another predator, bigger than the humans, more dangerous. Aldrich's wolf didn't attack, didn't bare teeth, just waited. Still, the silver wolf circled, testing, looking for weakness, finding none. Aldrich's wolf took a step forward, slow, deliberate. The silver wolf snapped. He kept coming, not aggressive, not threatening, just present, refusing to back down, refusing to abandon her even when she was lost. Their eyes met, silver on silver, and somewhere deep in the wolf's mind, a flicker, recognition. This wolf, this male smelled right, felt. Safe the bond, even the wolf could feel it. Golden thread pulling her toward him. Stronger than instinct, stronger than rage. Aldrich's wolf pressed closer, until they stood nose to nose, breathing each other's air, The silver wolf's snarl faded, confusion replacing aggression. What? Aldrich's wolf touched his muzzle to hers, gentle, a wolf's kiss, and the bond blazed, light erupted, golden blinding connecting them, twining around both wolves. The silver wolf shuddered, control slipping, not that wolf, Seraphine's. She clawed her way back, through instinct, through the fog of rage, found herself, found the part of her that was still human, still thinking, still her come back. Aldrich's voice in her mind, through the bond clear as speaking, come back to me. She reached for it, for him, for the certainty that she wasn't alone, wasn't lost. The wolf resisted, wanted to run, to hunt, to be free, but that male, that bond. Stronger, the shift reversed. Slower this time, painful but manageable fur receding, bones reforming, claws retracting. Until Seraphine collapsed, naked, exhausted, into Aldrich's arms. He'd shifted back, somehow produced a cloak, wrapped it around her, held her while she shook, gasped, tried to remember how to be human. The great hall was silent, shocked silence. 500 nobles staring at the halfling who'd just shifted into something none of them had ever seen. Something ancient, powerful, terrifying. Theron recovered first. His voice shook. She's a monster. She nearly killed half the court. She must be executed immediately. Murmurs of agreement. Fear making people stupid. Aldrich rose, still holding Seraphine, cradled against his chest like she weighed nothing. Anyone who threatens my queen threatens the crown, his voice carried. Cold, absolute. And I do not tolerate treason, Your Majesty. Theron stepped forward. Be reasonable. She can't control her shift. She's dangerous. She shifted. As required. The bond is legitimate. She's moonborn. The word dropped like a stone. Silence even deeper than before. Because everyone knew that name, that bloodline. Extinct for 30 years, hunted to extinction because other wolves feared their power. Impossible, someone whispered. They're all dead. Apparently not. Rowena's voice sweet, which raises questions. Where has she been hiding? What else is she hiding? Seraphine found her voice raw, scraped. But hers, I wasn't hiding anything. I didn't know. She pushed against Aldrich. Let me stand. He hesitated. Released her slowly. She stood on Shenna's cloak. Facing the court, my mother was moonborn, Princess Lunara. Last of her line, she married my father to hide. To survive, gasps, shock, Lord Garrett knew. Seraphine's voice strengthened. He knew what she was, what I could be. And he hid it. Let me believe I was broken. Worthless. Because he wanted access to moonborn secrets. She pulled the locket from beneath the cloak, held it up. The crescent moon caught light, glowed silver. This is proof. Moonborn crest. My birthright. Your birthright is death. Theron's face had gone purple. The moonborn were eliminated for good reason. Too powerful. Too dangerous. You nearly killed everyone in this room. I nearly killed everyone because I had no training, no guidance, no one to teach me control. Her eyes found his. Held, and whose fault is that? Who decided moonborn should die instead of teaching them? Who decided fear was better than understanding? The question landed, made people uncomfortable. Because history wasn't always heroic. Sometimes it was just murder, dressed up as necessity. Aldrich stepped beside her, united front. The moonborn are not extinct. My queen stands before you. Proof that what we thought impossible is real. She's dangerous. Rowena this time. You saw what happened. She lost control. What if it happens again? During a state dinner? A festival? She could kill hundreds. Then I'll learn control. Seraphine's voice cut through. I'll train, practice, do whatever it takes. And in the meantime, Theron pressed, we're supposed to trust that the monster won't emerge? I'm not a monster. I'm your queen. You're a halfling with delusions. Aldrich moved fast. One moment standing beside Seraphine, the next at Theron's throat, hand wrapped around the counselor's neck, lifting him off his feet. Call her that again. I dare you. Theron choked, cheeks going red, then purple. Guards rushed forward, uncertain because their king was attacking a council member, but also The council member had insulted the queen. What were they supposed to do? Aldrich, Seraphine's voice. Calm. Put him down. He insulted you, I know. Put him down anyway. He called you a monster, I heard. Still, put him down. Aldrich hesitated. Finvers tightening, then released. Theron collapsed, gasping, clutching his throat. Aldrich turned back to the court. Lady Seraphine shifted. The bond is proven legitimate. She is your queen. Anyone who disputes this, step forward now. No one moved. Fear, respect, uncertainty, all warring on noble faces. Good. Aldrich took Seraphine's hand. The ceremony is complete. He led her from the hall, through doors that guards held open, down corridors. Away from 500 staring eyes behind them. Cows erupted, voices rising, arguments starting. But Seraphine didn't care, because she'd done it, shifted, proved herself, almost killed everyone but Didiels. They made it to Aldrich's chambers before Seraphine collapsed. Legs giving out, energy completely spent. He caught her, carried her to the bed, laid her down like she might shatter. I need to call the healers. No. Her hand caught his wrist. Just stay. He sat, brushed hair from her face. You terrified me. I terrified myself. I thought I was going to have to kill you. The words hit like stones because he meant it. If the wolf had attacked, really attacked, gone for the kill, whatever it took, would you have? Silence. Long heavy, I don't know. I wanted to believe the bond would bring you back. But his jaw tightened. If you'd killed someone, if the wolf had taken over completely, he met her eyes. I would have done what was necessary to protect the realm. Honesty, brutal, true, and somehow that made her love him more, because he didn't lie to make her feel better, didn't pretend this wasn't dangerous. I'm sorry, don't apologize. You did what I asked. You shifted. I lost control. First shifts are always chaotic. The chronicles said so. He'd read them. Of course he had. Probably stayed up all night studying, preparing, knowing what might happen and standing beside her anyway. Theron's right though. I'm dangerous. You're powerful. There's a difference. Not to them. Then they'll learn. His hand cupped her cheek. You're moonborn, last of your line. That makes you extraordinary. Extraordinary things get hunted. Not while I'm alive. Simple, certain, true. She pulled him down, kissed him, poured everything she couldn't say into it. Thank you. I'm scared. I love you. Don't leave me, he responded. Gentle at first, then desperate. Like he needed to confirm she was real. Wool, when they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. We need to talk about what happens next. Can it wait? Probably not. Is someone dying? No. Then it can wait. She kissed him again. Let the bond do what the bond did best, connect, heal, remind them why they'd fought so hard to be together. Morning came too soon, sunlight stabbing through windows like accusations. Seraphine woke tangled in Aldrich, his arm across her waist, Foxed buried in her hair, breathing slow, even, peaceful. She wanted to stay like this. Forever, just them, no court, no politics, no expectations. But the world didn't care what she wanted. A knock at the door. 3 taps. Pause. 2 more, not Aldrich's pattern, someone else who knew their code. Seraphine tensed. Aldrich's eyes opened out immediately. Who is it? Mirelle, he relaxed. Slightly. Come in. The healer entered, looked exhausted. Hair disheveled, clothes rumpled. We have a problem. Of course they did, because one crisis wasn't enough. What now? Lady Rowena disappeared last night. After the ceremony, Mirelle's expression was grim, and someone broke into the Moonborn archives. Seraphine sat up, ice flooding her veins. What? The chamber beneath the East Tower. The seal was broken. Someone entered. What did they take? I don't know yet, but Mirelle hesitated. There are texts down there, dangerous ones, about Moonborn abilities, weaknesses, ways to. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Aldrich's voice came out flat. Rowena, possibly. She had motive, access, and now she's gone. Find her. I've already sent guards. But if she left during the chaos last night, she has a 12-hour head start. Too long. Too much time to disappear. To plan. to use whatever she'd stolen against them. Seraphine's hands clenched in the sheets. What can those texts do, if she has them? Mirelle met her eyes. They contain information about how to force a moonborn shift, how to trap one in wolf form, how to, she swallowed, how to kill one. Permanently. Great. Fantastic. Perfect, there's more. How could there be more? A message arrived this morning from Lord Garrett, Seraphine's father. The man who'd lied to her hid the truth, let her suffer. What does he want? To speak with you. He says he has information about your mother's death, about what really happened 30 years ago. They met in a neutral location, not the palace, not Ashwood Manor, a tavern on the border between territories, private room, guards outside. Aldrich refused to let Seraphine go alone. She didn't argue, needed him there, needed the bond's warmth to keep her steady when facing the man who'd made her childhood hell. Lord Garrett looked older, grey hair, lines around his eyes, shoulders bent under invisible weight. Guilt maybe, or just age. He stood when they entered, bowed to Aldrich, to Seraphine, your majesty. Seraphine, she didn't correct him, didn't demand he call her queen, because despite everything, part of her still saw him as the father who'd never wanted her. Aldrich's hand found hers, assured her, you have 5 minutes. Talk. Garrett sat, gestured to chairs across from him. They didn't sit. He sighed. I know you hate me. You should. I've been cruel, cowardly. I let my fear control me, and you paid the price. Is that supposed to be an apology? No. An apology would imply I deserve forgiveness. I don't. He looked directly at her. But you deserve the truth. So tell it your mother. Lunara. She was moonborn. You know that now. He ran a hand through his hair. What you don't know is that I didn't marry her to hide her. I married her because I loved her. Seraphine blinked. That wasn't what she'd expected. I met her at a summit. She was running from hunters. Scared. Alone. Last of her kind. His voice cracked. She was everything. Beautiful. Strong, terrified of her own power. If you loved her, why did you treat me like garbage? Because you reminded me of her. Every time I looked at you, I saw what I'd lost, what I'd failed to protect. She died when I was 3. She was murdered. The words fell heavy. Final. By Councillor Theron, the room spun. Aldrich's hand tightened on hers. What? Theron discovered what she was. Came to our estate with hunters. Demanded I hand her over. Garrett's eyes were wet now. I refused. Lunara shifted to defend me. And his voice broke completely. Theron killed her. Silver blade through the heart. The only thing that can kill a moonborn permanently. Seraphine couldn't breathe. Theron, the man who'd proposed her from day one, who'd called her a monster, who demanded her execution. He'd killed her mother. Why didn't you say anything? Report him? Have him arrested? He had proof she was moonborn, had witnesses who'd seen her shift. If I'd spoken out, he would have exposed her bloodline. Exposed you. Garrett's hands shook. I thought if I stayed silent, if I hid the truth, you'd be safe. Safe. The word came out bitter. You let my mother's murderer walk free. Let him join the council, let him gain power. And you call that keeping me safe? I was wrong, I know that now, but I was scared. Terrified that if anyone knew what you were, they'd kill you too, so you made my life hell instead. Yes, simple, honest, broken. I did. Aldrich spoke for the first time. Where's your proof that Theron killed her? The blade. Silver, moonborn crest etched into the hilt. I kept it, hidden. Evidence in case I ever found the courage to use it. Where is it now? Ashwood Manor. In my study. Behind a false panel. We'll need it. Take it. Take everything. Garrett stood. I can't undo what I've done. Can't give you back the childhood I stole. But he pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is a signed confession. Everything I just told you, witnessed. Notarized. He held it out. Seraphine didn't take it. Couldn't, because accepting it meant forgiving him, and she wasn't ready for that. Might never be ready. Aldrich took the envelope instead. We'll verify this if it's true. If Theron is guilty, his voice went cold. He'll pay for what he's done. Garrett nodded. Turned to Seraphine. I don't expect your forgiveness. Don't deserve it. but tears tracked down his weathered face. "I am sorry. For all of it, and your mother. She loved you more than anything. She'd be proud of who you've become." He left, walked out of the room, out of the tavern, left Seraphine standing there, shaking. Aldrich pulled her into his arms, let her collapse against him, let her cry for the mother she barely remembered, for the childhood she'd lost, for the father who'd chosen fear over love. When she finally pulled back, eyes red, face blotchy, voice hoarse, she had one thought: "We need to find Rowena. Before she gives Theron the information he needs to kill me, we will, and then we make him answer for every crime, every lie, every drop of blood he's spilled." She looked up at him, her king, her mate, her home. Together, always together. They returned to the palace, sent guards to Ashwood Manor for the blade, sent scouts to track Rowena, and waited, because sometimes that's all you could do: wait for the pieces to fall, for the trap to spring, for the enemy to reveal themselves. Seraphine spent the time training with Mirelle, learning to shift without losing control, to hold her wolf form, to communicate through the bond with Aldrich even when transformed. Progress slow, painful, but progress. On the third day, news arrived. Rowena had been spotted, riding toward Theron's estate, accompanied by armed guards, carrying documents. Aldrich called the council. Emergency session. Full attendance required, including Theron, who arrived, looked smug, confident, like he knew something they didn't. He probably did. The meeting started. Aldrich stood. "We have evidence of treason, conspiracy, murder." Theron's expression didn't change. "Serious accusations, Your Majesty." "I hope you have proof." "We do." Aldrich nodded to guards. "Who brought in the silver blade?" Moonborn crest clear on the hilt, still stained with old blood. "This weapon was used 30 years ago to murder Princess Lunara. Last confirmed Moonborn before Lady Seraphine." Murmurs around the table, shock, confusion. Theron remained still. "Tragic, but what does this have to do with me? The blade was yours, commissioned specifically for hunting Moonborn. We have records, receipts, witnesses, circumstantial. We also have a signed confession from Lord Garrett, detailing how you killed Lunara, threatened him into silence, and spent 30 years covering your crime." Finally, a crack in Theron's composure. "Garrett is a coward and a liar. His confession means nothing, perhaps." Aldrich's voice remained calm. "But Lady Rowena's does." The doors opened. Guards entered, dragging Rowena between them, wrist bound, dress torn, hair disheveled. She looked terrified. "Tell them." Aldrich's voice cut through her fear. "Tell them what you told me." Rowena's eyes found Theron, held. "I'm sorry, don't." His voice sharp. "Don't you dare. He promised me." Her voice shook. "Promised if I helped him kill Seraphine, I'd be queen. That we'd rule together." Gasps. Outrage. Theron stood. "She's lying, obviously. She's been caught stealing from the archives and is inventing stories to save herself. Except she brought us proof." Aldrich held up documents. Moonborn texts. "Annotated in your handwriting. Plans to force Seraphine into an uncontrolled shift during a public event. To turn the realm against her. To justify her execution. This is absurd, is it?" Seraphine spoke for the first time. "You killed my mother because she was Moonborn. Now you're trying to kill me for the same reason. Your mother was a monster. You're a monster. The realm is safer without your kind." "There it is." Aldrich's voice went deadly quiet. "Confession. Before witnesses." Theron realized his mistake. "That's not Councillor Theron. You are under arrest for treason, conspiracy, murder, and attempted murder." Aldrich gestured to guards. "Take him." They moved fast, grabbed Theron's arms. He fought, struggled. "You can't do this. I'm a council member. I have rights. You have nothing." Seraphine stepped forward. "My mother had rights. You killed her anyway. Now you'll face justice." They dragged him away, screaming, threatening, promising vengeance. The council chamber fell silent, everyone processing what they'd witnessed, what it meant. Aldrich turned to Seraphine, held out his hand. She took it. "Let him pull her close. It's over. Not quite, but close. Justice would take time. Trials, evidence, process, but the man who'd killed her mother, who'd tried to kill her, he'd been stopped, exposed, removed. That had to count for something. 1 month later, Seraphine stood before a different crowd. Same great hall, different occasion, coronation, not engagement ceremony. Full coronation as moonborn queen. The crown was silver. Crescent moons etched into the band, matching her mother's locket, her heritage power. Aldrich placed it on her head himself. Gentle, Your Majesty. The crowd different now, Theron gone. Half his supporters removed, replaced by nobles who understood that strength came in many forms. That different didn't mean dangerous, meant powerful. They bowed, together, as one, to their moonborn queen. Seraphine looked out at them, at the realm she'd helped rule, at the future she'd fought for, and smiled, 'cause a girl who'd been told she was nothing, unwanted, broken, now wore a crown, led a kingdom, changed the world, not by being what they expected, but by being exactly who she was. Later, after the ceremony, after the feast, after the endless congratulations and political maneuvering, she found Aldrich on their private balcony, overlooking gardens turned silver in moonlight. He pulled her close, wrapped arms around her waist. How does it feel? Heavy. The crown. We can have it adjusted, not the weight. The responsibility, I know. What if I fail? Then we fail together, he kissed her temple. But you won't. You're stronger than you know, because you believe in me, because you believe in yourself. Finally, true somewhere between the ball and the ceremony, between being nobody and becoming queen, she'd learned. You didn't need someone else to validate your worth, didn't need external approval, just needed to want yourself, to fight for yourself, to believe you deserved the space you occupied. Everything else followed. I love you. The words came easy now, natural, true. Aldrich turned her in his arms, looked at her like she hung the moon. I love you too, my queen, my mate, my everything. He kissed her deep thorough of promise, and Seraphine kissed him back. Let the bond sing between them. Let the future unfold. Because being unwanted by everyone meant being chosen by the right one mattered more, and she'd been chosen by a king, by a realm, by herself. That was more than enough. How many times have we judged someone's worth by what they couldn't do instead of what they could become? This story reminds us of something important. We all know talented people who never got their chance because someone decided they weren't enough. The veterans who came home and were told they couldn't adapt. The immigrants told they'd never belong. The people who lost everything and were told they'd never recover. Seraphine's story isn't about magic wolves. It's about what happens when you refuse to accept someone else's no as your final answer. When you prove wrong the people who said you'd never make it. She didn't need someone to save her. She needed someone to believe she could save herself. Sometimes that's what we all need, not a hero, just a witness to our becoming. Have you ever been told you'd fail and proved them wrong? Or maybe you regret underestimating someone. Share your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that potential isn't always visible at first glance. That being different isn't being less. That sometimes the people everyone overlooks are exactly the ones who change everything.